And that was the way it was in them days, you know. You just, when you finished school, you got into the back of a van, and you were lucky if you got a good one. So I got into the back of a van and we went round solving mysteries. And my mammy didn't like that at all. She says, the only mystery you need to be worried about is the mystery of the Holy Trinity. And she says, if you're going around messing, getting rid of ghosts, you may become a priest like your brother. But I didn't in the end. I went, there was 4 of us in the van. There was myself, there was Daphne and Fred, and they got married. And then there was Velma. Now, she didn't want to get married because of the marriage ban at the time. And they called me Shaggy because I had the long hair at the time. But I used to play tricks on them. And they said, did you break that there net? Or did you break that there trap? And I'd say, no, it wasn't me. And we travelled up and down the country. I met everybody. I met Sonny and Cher. I met Mama Cass. I met Frank Mitchell. I met the Harlem Globetrotters. Everybody. And we had a big dog as well. His name was Scooby-Doo. And we kept him in the van with us. And I took him everywhere. And I taught him tricks and I fed him treats and all sorts of stuff. And by God, we got chased. We got chased everywhere. Down the corridors, up and down the bookshelves, and the drawers, all sorts of stuff. And sometimes myself and Scooby would play a trick on the monster. And I'd pretend to be a chef and Scooby would pretend to be a waiter. And we'd serve them a fancy meal and they wouldn't know it was us until the end. And then they'd chase us again. And it was never really a monster. It was always an old man who had some sort of problem with the place. They always said the same thing. They said, aye, and I would have been away as well if it weren't for you Thran Waynes and that big ignoramus of a dog. And there was one day we were in Letterkenny and we were investigating a haunted swimming pool. And Scooby was running behind me. All of a sudden he wasn't. And we drove the mystery machine to the vets and asked him what was wrong. And there was lots of different things. I mean, he was an old dog. He was solving mysteries since the 60s. I'd been feeding him lots of Scooby snacks, but they're actually full of asbestos. And the rest of his diet wasn't great either. I mean, me and Scooby used to eat the same things. And that day we'd had a 12-foot Italian sub. So I was allowed in to say me goodbyes. Scooby was lying on the table. He says, he turns to me and he says, Raggy, because he called me Raggy. Are you afraid? And I says, aye. I says, aye, I'm afraid. And he says, I'm not for once. He says, I might have been afraid of the ghosts and the ghouls and the goblins, but I'm not afraid of death. Because I spent my life with my best friend. And I didn't solve many mysteries after that, because I wasn't afraid anymore. I'd already faced my greatest fear. Would you like a wee biscuit or anything?